What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to a surprise episode of the Hedging Screens podcast. As always, I'm your host, Zach Cronin. I hope everybody is doing well mentally, physically, and emotionally. I also just want to go ahead and apologize for any background noise that is currently going on. My air conditioner is right next to my microphone, and you know what? I'm actually probably just going to go ahead. I'm fuck it. I'm gonna just shut it off. I think I can tolerate being a little uncomfortable for an hour. It's just so fucking hot and humid and muggy and gross in New York right now. But I'm not concerned about any of that. I had to jump on the microphone because there is so much that's going on with NBA free agency. As we know, NBA free agency is just always it's always a great time for the fans because there's always at least one storyline that emerges every year that nobody could foresee. And well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen, my Brooklyn Nets are at the center of it this year. So last week, my main focus of the show was talking about how Kyrie Irving was once again back with the Brooklyn Nets, opting into his $37 million player option. And at the time, Kevin Durant had not yet requested a trade from the Brooklyn Nets. That has been the story that has monopolized, not even monopolized, just absolutely engulfed the NBA media circle. So, as we know, our legendary reporter, Mr. Adrian Wojnarowski himself, was actually, I can't remember, it was either him or Shams, as it had always been. Originally, actually, Brian Windhorst, who has gotten a lot of airtime and a lot of discussion on Twitter, Brian Windhorst was the one who originally said that the Brooklyn Nets were prepared to lose Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Now, Windy does not have the same track record as Woj and Shams. I'm not saying that he is, of a hack of a reporter or anything. It's just that when it comes to big names in the NBA, when it comes to big stories, when it comes to big scoops, Woj, Shams, sometimes Chris Haynes, those are the names that we are looking for. Those are the guys who we have their notifications turned on. I don't know of anybody who has Brian Windhorst's notifications turned on. But Woj and Shams corroborated this report saying that Kevin Durant was looking to get out of Brooklyn. He no longer wants to play for the Brooklyn Nets, reportedly. Now I'm trying to find the actual tweet from Woj and Shams. Woj, Kevin Durant wanted to get Kyrie. Okay, so I can't find the tweet. I don't know where the fuck. I don't know. I don't know where the original tweet is. But in the days that have come, there have been so many reports, so many speculations, so many trade packages that have been proposed to just see what goes on with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Now, Woj has said, I have actually a tweet here from Alex Strum, who writes and reports for The Athletic. This was when Woj was on TV saying Kevin Durant wanted to get Kyrie Irving a long-term deal in Brooklyn. That didn't happen. He says that after Kai couldn't find a sign-and-trade, communication stopped. Plus, the Nets have been prepping for this for weeks. Woj also later said on the program, I think it's likely that not only Kevin Durant but also Kyrie Irving has played his last game with Brooklyn. Now, I have a take on this that kind of deviates from the mainstream. So I don't think that Woj and Shams are lying. I think that these are legitimate reports that they are giving to us. I do, however, remain very skeptical because something seems off about this situation. And I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to toot like fucking, flex or anything, but I was right about Kyrie Irving signing with Brooklyn, and it wasn't just me being optimistic, it was me just observing the situation. It's like if Kyrie wants to contend for a championship, he's going to come back to Brooklyn. Now, of course, just because he re-signed, that didn't mean that any sign and trades are off the table, but at least he was back in Brooklyn, okay? Now, with this situation, I remain highly skeptical of it because guys like Kevin Durant do not ask for trades unless they want to get off of a bad team. Now, I stress the importance of a bad team, get off of a bad team, and not escape a bad situation, because even if you have a bad situation, if you're on a contender, you are you're most likely going to be willing to you're most likely going to be willing to wait it out and see what happens. If we look back onto recent history, there haven't been guys of KD's caliber in a position that he is who have requested trades. Ramona Shelburne pointed to Kobe Bryant earlier earlier in this new cycle. I think it was Friday morning. It was either Thursday or Friday. And she pointed out that Kobe, back in 2007, when he went on to LA radio and, requested a trade from the Lakers, where he said like some shit along the lines of, I'd rather be playing on Pluto right now. That is the closest instance. And how that instance resolved itself was Kobe Bryant returned to the Lakers. He rescinded his trade request, and they went on to build a contender, and eventually they won the title the following year in 2008, and Kobe won Finals MVP. Now, I was just reading up on this case again, and Kobe seemed to be acting spitefully towards the Lakers, which I can't, I don't hate when players get petty and they try to spite their franchises, because organizations are. I can understand why players are mad at organizations, because they just fundamentally operate differently. But a large part of Kobe's wanting to get out of Los Angeles was how he was repeatedly being blamed for Shaquille O'Neal leaving the team, eventually signing with, Miami and, later Boston and all those fucking teams or whatever. And he simply just wanted an apology. And once he got an apology from the Lakers, seemingly their relationship was at least work friendly. I don't know what it was like behind the scenes, but they at least worked together, and, they won 2 more titles together. Now, there are a lot of parallels with Kevin Durant in this instance, because the Lakers, or the Nets this past year, while not a contender, they were capable of becoming a contender. They just got unlucky. They've been very unlucky these last 2 years. And much like with Kobe and the Lakers, or actually, well, yes, there is a little bit of tension between him and the organization, a lot of which I think stems from Kevin not liking how the team treated Kyrie with the whole vaccine situation, and then like being so hard on him not coming back, and then eventually acquiescing. And I've brought this up multiple times, like, they should not have done that, okay? You can criticize Kyrie all you want for getting the vaccine, which is fine. That was his personal choice, and he has to accept the consequences. But Brooklyn, I would not have been so staunch in them denying his ability to play, because we all knew that he was going to come back. It was just a matter of when. I'm not saying that these reports are unfounded, but I do think that there is a possibility that maybe Kevin, is just trying to tell everyone, hey, stop fucking around. Kyrie needs to stop fucking around. And more importantly, the organization needs to stop fucking around, because they are in the best position to win a championship that they have been since the early 2000s, the Nets have. And they're just like, I don't know what's going on, but I don't know if there's a huge disconnect between not just the players and the front office, but also the front office and ownership, because there's just like so much weirdness like emanating from the organization. So maybe Kevin is trying to strong arm them, because realistically, like, what kind of package are you fetching for Kevin Durant? And what makes this story even almost like more unbelievable is there are reports that have come out in the wake of it where Kevin is like, I only want to play for Phoenix or Miami. Like, I don't understand why KD, someone who is chronically online, who knows how some people perceive him, whether it's being soft or, not having legitimate championships, which I think are, that's false. He has 2 legitimate championships. I don't really know, like, if that's even a dig against him. But if he's looking at this from the point of view of his legacy, why would he want to leave Brooklyn, a team where he originally joins and takes them from fledgling playoff team to legitimate contender? Why would he want to leave that situation for two situations um that are already like legitimate championship organizations in their own right? Like Miami was just the one seed in the Eastern Conference. Okay, they forced a game 7 against the eventual Eastern Conference champion Boston Celtics. And then Phoenix 64-18 this past season. They've won 60 games in two or three of the last 4 seasons or something. Could have went, many people thought that they were the best team in the West. I was one of them at the beginning of the season. I thought that Phoenix wasn't going to run away with the Western Conference, but I thought they would make it to another finals. Like, why would you want to go to those situations? And Frank Isola, who covers the Nets for the Yes Network, says that, he's looking to go to a drama-free organization, and that's what he sees in Phoenix. And that just totally disregards the fact that, the Suns had this whole investigation conducted that looked at nearly 2 decades of repeated and vehement toxicity, racism, sexism from their owner, Robert Sarver. That's not exactly a drama-free organization. And additionally, any team that's going to try to bring on Kevin Durant is going to need to part with so much. And none of these contending teams, I don't think that any of these contending teams will be willing to part with their key assets in order to bring on Kevin Durant. Like, I thought that maybe he goes to Phoenix, and this was before Devin Booker signed his extension, which means that I think he's untradeable at this point because Brooklyn having Ben Simmons, they can't have two players on rookie designated extensions or some shit. I don't really know. I thought that maybe you get Devin Booker back, you pair Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton with Ben Simmons and Kyrie Irving, and you're cooking potentially. But then that leaves Phoenix with Chris Paul and Kevin Durant. And how far is that team going? So there is a lot of uncertainty that's surrounding this piece of news. And at the time of this recording, there really isn't anything notable going on. There are still, of course, reports linking Kyrie to the Lakers. I don't know how realistic that is, but there is significantly less interest in Kyrie Irving than Kevin Durant. Like every team has called Brooklyn about Kevin Durant, and as of a couple of days ago, there was really no team that was interested in pursuing Kyrie Irving outside of the Lakers. But just trying to think of packages. So Brooklyn is looking for a young all-star player or players, young starting role players, a copious amount of draft picks, and swaps. I think it's one all-star, one all-star, 2 young starting role players, 4 firsts, and 3 swaps. And this, of course, is taking into account what the Utah Jazz just got for Rudy Gobert, which we'll talk about in a second, which included 4 first-round picks, 3 of which are unprotected, I believe, a swap, and then Patrick Beverley, who's a quality player, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, and someone else whom I can't remember, but that's a decent haul for Rudy Gobert. We're going to talk about this once we get done with Kevin Durant. I just don't know. Woj said on ESPN that the Warriors winning the title and the criticism that landed on Kevin Durant because of it contributed to a tipping point regarding his trade request. I don't know anything about this. KD knew what he was doing when he left the Warriors, and I think that there were a lot of people who for some reason didn't expect a fully healthy Warriors team to at least be in the championship discussion. I myself did not think that they would go to the finals, although once the season started and once we were in the swing of things, I was like, this is the best team in the Western Conference. But I thought that they would be close. I thought they were the second or third best team in the West, of course, depending on what happened with Utah. We saw a rise from Dallas, of course. Memphis was incredible, but Golden State, obviously is the best team in the league at this point. They just won the goddamn title. So KD knew what he was leaving when he signed with Brooklyn. And, part of the intrigue in signing with Brooklyn was that he would be the undisputed number one on a contending team for really the first time in his career. I mean, we know about how things were with that first go around with OKC, but there were still other teams that were better than the Thunder. Like, they were contenders certainly, but I don't know how realistic. I can't remember like what the collective perception of the Thunder was. I do know that when he came to Brooklyn, the Nets were like automatically pushed to the top of the Eastern Conference tier list. And then of course we get the rise of Milwaukee, we see Boston come alive, we see Miami with Jimmy and Bam. So he knew. Woj also later says that he believes another reason is the front office's lack of commitment towards Kyrie Irving, and then also just being frustrated with James Harden, which is understandable. Like, I think everyone who's related, who's like even like fans who are adjacent to the franchise, everyone was frustrated with how Jim Harden performed with Brooklyn. It was a very, very difficult situation, but I get that KD and Kyrie are boys. But you as Kevin Durant, and I'm not trying to tell him how to think because he is a grown man. It's weird for him to look at everything that went down and still expect Brooklyn to be committed to Kyrie Irving, because as far as I'm concerned, the relationship between Brooklyn and Kyrie is strained on both sides, and that's going to take time to mend. I think that him opting into his player option is the first step in reigniting the trust between them. Because if Kyrie is, with the team for a sizable portion of this upcoming season, 65, 70 games or whatever, he will be in a position to sign a larger extension than before. More money, bird rights, this whole thing, especially with the cap going up by like 10% or whatever it is. It's not like Brooklyn is ready to yeet Kyrie at the first offer they get. I don't think they're going to do that. I think that this is going to be drawn out for a while, but I'm not saying that KD's frustrations are unwarranted, because, I'm sure he expected coming to Brooklyn to be a lot smoother than how it is right now. I think that something that is also compounding his frustration is also just how unlucky they've been this year. Last year, with Kyrie getting hurt on a suspect play where Giannis slides under him as he's coming down for a layup. Like, that was a sussy play on Giannis's behalf. And if you say that it's not, I think you're being disingenuous. And then, of course, with himself missing that three in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals, when, the Nets were in a position to, or in the Eastern Conference semis, were in a position to not only get to the finals, but win the finals. I think that maybe the frustration of just being unlucky is compounding. I do think that it's a little weird for him to ask for a trade, because he's got to know that there's really no team in the league that can match what Brooklyn is asking for. And it's super hard to speculate, because every team is going to put a package together for Kevin Durant. Literally every team in the association, aside from like the Knicks, like Miami, I don't think is actually going to make like a realistic offer. Phoenix, I don't think is going to make a realistic offer, because they don't have the assets, and also they know that their teams are proven, and they don't want to jeopardize that. If I had to predict, I think that Kevin Durant plays with Brooklyn next season. I think that at some point, these sides are just going to fucking deal with one another. I feel that, I believe that to be the case, because again, it's just, this is probably like the greatest. KD is probably the most talented player on this kind of team, like a contending team, to ask for a trade. Like, there's no precedent for this. aside from Kobe in 2007, which of course dematerialized. Like LeBron never came out and requested a trade. I can't remember. Like no one knows what a good or a bad deal looks like for Kevin Durant. Another thing I want to address is really anyone who's talking about how the team with D'Angelo Russell, Karis LeVert, and Jared Allen, um, was the better option at the time. It was not. You're lying to yourself if you think that's true. If you look at where all of these guys are now, Brooklyn got off of them when they were approaching their peaks. Okay, it was perfect timing. D'Lo, Karis, Jared Allen were all looking to get paid big money contracts, and I don't think Brooklyn would be happy with long-term deals for them three, for the three of them, seeing where they're at now. Okay, that's no disrespect to any of these guys, but D'Angelo Russell is now arguably the fourth best player on his team. He's third at the highest. You're not winning a championship with him as your number one. Karis LeVert has just not really found a rhythm anywhere. It's very upsetting, but that's kind of just how it is. Is my camera auto exposing right now? That was so weird. Um, and then Jared Allen is listen. I love Jared Allen. I love JA so much. He's awesome. But is that core enough to win a championship? It's not. Especially when you're deciding between them and Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. You do that deal 100 times out of 100, regardless of how it ends. It is disingenuous to think that Brooklyn would be in a better position with D'Lo and Karis than they would with um, KD and Kyrie, because at the best possible scenario, you're maybe winning 50 games with that team. And I don't know how they would fare in this Eastern Conference, this fucking gauntlet that is an Eastern Conference. So I'm not really trying to like rewrite history or, be a revisionist or anything. That was the deal. That was the deal to make, was to sign KD and Kyrie and see what happens. What else is there? Why is fucking Chad John Ocho Cinco is LARPing as a reporter? I'm not saying I'm Woj, but I've been in contact with Kevin Durant, and we will make a decision on what's best for us as basketball is concerned. Our number one priority is and will always be winning a championship. This is just super. This is just, again, super weird. Another thing that Woj brought up, and that a few people have brought up, is that Kevin Durant effectively has no leverage in this situation. He can't say where he wants to go because, like, Brooklyn is gonna do what's best for them. Like, if he really wants to get out of here, and he's like dead set on not playing for the team next year, they're not gonna give a fuck where they send him. They'll send him to Siberia. It doesn't matter. Whatever gives them the best return. So, like, with all of this considered, and again, I cannot downplay the fact that KD was like, I want to leave the Brooklyn Nets and go play for one of the two one seeds in the NBA. Something just does not add up for me. It it doesn't it I just don't have any way of rationalizing this decision. It's odd, man. It's so weird. It's so weird. Um. So again, I think my hot take for this whole Kevin Durant situation is that he's just calling the Nets bluff because of how they acted with Kyrie, and it's kind of like a statement at this point, like, hey, stop fucking around. Because Kevin, if nobody more than Kevin Durant has the right to be fed up with literally everybody in the organization. You look at KD, you look at a guy who comes to the Nets. This dude comes to Brooklyn and has two of the best seasons ever. Well, ever in regards to just like historically and also in regards to his career. Comes to Brooklyn, gives you 29 points, 7 boards, 6 dimes on 50, 40, 90 percentages, dude. This is the best version of Kevin Durant that we've ever seen. He's giving you LeBron James type numbers while also being your best defensive player. He has the right to look at this situation and be like, I want everyone to stop fucking around right now. I'm fed up. This is bullshit. I came here. I've busted my ass for 90 games over the last 2 seasons. He's been hurt, this, that, whatever. Understandable, calf strain, knee injury. But even then, this dude has balled his ass off. Was a legitimate MVP candidate these past 2 years. And I think he's just fed up with everything. And while I believe that he's open to a trade, I don't really see one happening unless KD goes to a bad team and he wants to win a title. He does not want to go to a bad team. He doesn't. Noses so stuffy. Pardon me. So yeah, this is where I'm at with Kevin Durant. And now lighting's all fucked up. This is good, but at least my camera isn't overexposing itself. So I really don't know. I don't know where to take it from here. I've never experienced this in my lifetime in any sport. Is a dude of KD's magnitude effectively being like, yo, I'm over this shit. Get fucked, everyone. Who cares? I don't care. But KD, and I spent 30 minutes talking about him. I think 25, 30 minutes talking about him. I really, yeah, I don't want to see him go. But if he's adamant on going, there's not much that the fans can say because he's gonna do what's best for him. Another thing that I found really funny about this is Sam Amick, who reports for The Athletic, says that there's a significant obstacle in getting Kevin Durant to Miami because he wants to play with Bam, JB, and Kyle Lowry, which of course would not happen if you were going to Miami. At least 2 of those guys are gone. I feel that Brooklyn would, at the very least, try to get Jimmy Butler because you can get to the finals with Jimmy Butler. You can get to the finals with Jimmy Butler, Kyrie, and Ben Simmons. That's how I'm looking at it. Let's do, again, went to the finals in 2020. I get it, Mickey Mouse Championship, whatever. Conference finals this past season. In the postseason, Jimmy Butler is a different animal. Same beast, but a different animal, or whatever the fuck Kobe said in that commercial. Like, everything I hear about this, it just points it to be, it just seems faker and faker. According to Woj, there will be teams that will look at trading for both KD and Kyrie together, but the market on Kyrie is a fraction of what it is for KD. I already mentioned that. I think I don't think you're getting a package deal for KD and Kyrie. There are no amount of assets in the NBA that could have one team bring on both of those guys. I don't foresee that happening at all. I think it'd be more likely for Kyrie to go to LA and KD to go to Phoenix than it is for both of those guys to go somewhere together. I said that the only thing that would make the KD situation worse was if Brooklyn traded for Rudy Gobert. Not because Gobert isn't a good player, but because he's French. And fortunately, that cannot happen. I don't believe he can get traded because, as we know, he just got traded for essentially everybody. He got traded to Minnesota for 3 picks, which are I already talked about this. What the fuck? Why am I restating? Why am I restating this shit? I'm not a fucking reporter. I'm just here to give my opinion. So when I got this notification, I had my friend actually messaged me in the group chat. He's like, "Yo, what?" Like that was all he said. He's like, "Huh?" And I looked at my phone. And I said the same thing. Why did Minnesota trade for Rudy Gobert? The package: Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Walker Kessler, Jared Vanderbilt, and multiple firsts for Gobert. It turned out to be 4 firsts and a swap. Um, for Rudy Gobert. Now that makes their starting five: D'Lo, Cat, Gobert, Anthony Edwards. I'm forgetting somebody. Oh, I can't remember. I know Jaden McDaniels is still on that team, who was a major contributor for them this past postseason. I don't think this is a good trade for Minnesota. I understand what they're trying to do. They saw the success they had this year, and they're like, dude, we can be a legitimate force in the West. Okay, Cat is one of the 5 best centers in the NBA. He's proven. Has had some shaky moments in the playoffs, but he's starting to get into it. He's been in the playoffs a few times now, so he knows what to expect. You have Anthony Edwards, who's just a gamer. Guy pulls up, balls his ass off. D'Angelo Russell is a great third option. I know I was just talking mad shit about D'Lo, but I think he's a fantastic player in his own right. It's just very situation dependent. And now you add Rudy Gobert. Now, you add Rudy Gobert, who on paper takes this team to another level. Rudy Gobert is, there are not enough good things I could say about Rudy Gobert. Multiple time All-Star, the best defensive center of his generation, will probably make it into the Hall of Fame. I think that's a little premature to say that, but you never know. Listen, multiple time defensive player of the year. I don't think he fits with Minnesota. How are you going to play him and Cat together effectively? This is the point for me, is that I don't think that the mere addition of Rudy Gobert hurts Minnesota. But you have Cat, who can give you 25, 28 points a night. I get that Cat is a stretch 5. But you already have 3 other perimeter players. And Rudy Gobert is the guy that you're going to keep in the paint. I don't think this benefits the offense that much. Defensively, of course, it's a different story. But again, the big thing with me for Rudy Gobert is that you can't play him in the fourth quarter of playoff games against teams that are going to go small. You can't do it. He will get ran off the court. He cannot guard on the perimeter effectively. It's not because he's a bad defender. It's just because it's difficult for a guy who's 7'2" to stay in front of guards. It just is. Okay. An offensive player with a lower center of gravity will blow by Rudy Gobert 100 times out of 100. And it greatly limits his efficacy in the postseason when you're going up against teams that will knowingly exploit your weaknesses. And now this is going to be a huge decision. This is going to be something that, I think that it will have not tremendous ramifications, but I don't think that Minnesota makes out well with this trade, especially when you consider the package that they gave up. Malik Beasley is a good young player. Patrick Beverley, fantastic defender, really fit well with Minnesota. I loved Beverly's fit with the Timberwolves. He just gave them that edge that they didn't have yet, okay? Older guy, veteran guy. He loves to talk shit, and, more power to him, but ultimately he fit. Oh my god, it's so fucking dark now, man. The lighting is so annoying. But ultimately, he fit. He fit and did what he was supposed to do in Minnesota. And I don't think that this trade works out. I don't think this trade works out for the Timberwolves. I get why they did it. They're swinging for the fences. And hey, credit to the front office. I will never just unconditionally slander a front office that actively tries to improve their team, because, I don't think that this is going to work. But I'm also not trying to rule out the possibility that it can work, because I don't know. Rudy Gobert is a talented enough player. Minnesota can definitely find a way to make this work. I just think that it's going to be very difficult for them to do so. And then, of course, the sheer amount of assets that you have to give up to make this happen. I don't have a good feeling about this. And for Utah, this puts them in a very interesting situation because they now have like 6 or 7 picks that they've acquired over the last couple of days. They did trade for they did trade away Royce O'Neal to Brooklyn, which flew under the radar, rightfully. I mean, because no one's checking for that immediately after the news drops about Kevin Durant. But one of the things that I've always criticized the Jazz for not doing is not surrounding Donovan Mitchell with somebody who can be that legitimate number two, because Rudy Gobert was never that. They now have the assets to make a run at somebody like Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving. The issue, of course, now remains is that, at least in that scenario where you're looking at one of those two guys, Brooklyn is not doing that deal unless they get Donovan Mitchell. Sorry, it's not happening. Because I do not think that KD and Kyrie will sit out this season if they don't get traded. Maybe I'm just, maybe that's copium. I don't know. I don't foresee that happening. I think the optics would be too bad surrounding it. Maybe that's a bullshit reason and doesn't really justify it, but that's what I feel. And if the Jazz reach out to Brooklyn, they are 100% asking for Donovan Mitchell. Why wouldn't you? You cannot reach out to a team for their best player and not expect them to want your best player in return. I just think that's silly. Beyond that, I'm trying to remember if there were some other trades that happened, just because the Kevin Durant stuff, it really bungled my brain because I was not ready for it, and I kind of haven't been where trade tracker. Okay, let's see what else I've missed. Oh, how the fuck did I forget DeJounte Murray? Oh, I know, because it happened at the beginning of the week before Kevin Durant got traded. This trade for Atlanta, dude, trading for DeJounte Murray, and keeping all of your big time players, John Collins. They kept Kevin Huerter up until Friday, who got traded to Sacramento. So GG's to him. RIP to Kevin Huerter. Get my man out of Sacramento already. But I love this trade. DeJounte Murray is such a good young player, and I think the Spurs did the right thing by letting him go now, where they are fully committed to the rebuild, because currently they don't have anyone on the roster who they need to keep and try to build around. Derek White's gone for greener pastures to Boston. DeMar DeRozan, of course, is now with Chicago, and now DeJounte Murray is in Atlanta. I think both teams benefited from this trade. The Spurs do get a handful of picks. They got Danilo Gallinari, who they're waiving, and I know the picks for San Antonio are probably going to be mid, since the Hawks are looking to be a middle of the pack playoff team at the very least. But the act of shedding DeJounte Murray and being able to quickly hop into your rebuild, I think, is something that I think it's a very valuable decision for them to go about that. And Atlanta, they get another ball handler, they get a walking triple double essentially, but most importantly, they get arguably the best defensive guard in the NBA in DeJounte Murray. Someone who can match up with DeMar, with Zach LaVine, with Kemba Walker, with Drew Holiday or Chris Middleton, with Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving should they stay in Brooklyn. They have a legitimate perimeter defender who they can stick on any of the multiple super talented guards that are in the Eastern Conference. The only thing I worry about is spacing with them, because DeJounte Murray is not that great of a floor spacer. But overall, I think that this is a fucking great trade for Atlanta. And listen, they got off Gallinari's contract, which is fine, and he really wasn't much of a playmaker for them anyway, at least in the same capacity that DeJounte Murray can be. Also, trading away some picks that are effectively going to be useless for you, I don't really mind it. What else happened? So the Mavericks traded for Christian Wood. That was a long time ago. The Murray trade and the Royce O'Neal trade was really the only two things that happened. There was, and I don't know why this isn't on here, but there was. Hold on. There was that trade for KCP. I gotta find it. There was that trade for KCP, which landed him in uh, Denver. John Wall signing with the Clippers. I talked about that on Tuesday. I definitely remember that. Did it not get um processed or something? Because it's not anywhere. Yeah, it's nowhere here, but Denver has actually been fucking killing it this offseason. Of course, they re-signed Nikola Jokic to the richest deal in NBA history, which which took nobody by surprise. They also traded for KCP. They acquired KCP, Ish Smith, and now Bruce Brown. The Nuggets legitimately have 8 players. They have an 8 guy rotation, which, for the regular season doesn't really mean much, but having 8 legitimate players to trot out in the postseason is huge. And this, of course, accounts for Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. coming back. I would not be surprised if Vegas heavily favorites Denver just so they can take people's money, because they have a legitimate team now. And not only that, they have a team that that plugs all of the holes that they had last season, mainly defense. Bruce Brown's a great defender. Okay, I watched this man compete for 2 years. He was the only dude competing against Boston this past playoff. Sorry, it's just how it was. The only guy who had any memorable performances. KCP is still a reliable 3-and-D guy. So shout out to Denver. They have been absolutely tremendous. I'm trying to find. I just had the fucking. God damn it. Just had the free agency tracker up, and I forgot about it. Uh, what else? Oh, Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson finally inked his deal with the New York Knicks. Average with an AAV of 26 million over 4 years. I don't hate this deal. On Tuesday, I said that I was worried about New York overpaying, but I think that 26 million for Jalen Brunson is right around the ballpark. I thought that if they got 30, anything more than 30, which I don't know if it was possible or not, I thought that was worth it, especially after the postseason that Jalen Brunson had. I mean, this guy proved that he was worth big time money. So shout outs to the Knicks. I think that's a good signing. I'm not gonna shit on them for wasting this money on Jalen Brunson, because I don't think it's a waste. I think that they got a very solid point guard, and they now have like a legitimate point guard who can give them like meaningful production, and just help this young team become a little bit more cohesive. And you combine this, they re-signed Mitchell Robinson, which Mitch is great. So I think some Knicks fans were like, oh, this is a little much, but listen, you have to pay your homegrown guys. If you don't, you're just a dog shit organization. What is it? 4 years, 60 million, not the worst for someone who's going to produce for you. Like, that's the biggest thing. Mitch, despite all of his shortcomings, having like negative offensive game outside of catch and lobs, still something that he can give you, especially with Jalen Brunson coming in and actually being an actual point guard to feed him the ball around the basket. And I don't think we can overstate his play on defense. He fouls a lot, yes, but is also a fucking insane rim protector. The one deal that is a little odd was the Anthony Simons deal. Anthony Simons got $100 million over 4 years, and on paper, it was really hard for anyone to not be hypocritical when they say that he doesn't deserve that money, but I understand why they come to that conclusion because he got the same deal that Jalen Brunson did, effectively. Okay, same contract, similar numbers as well, similar career trajectories. Didn't really emerge until this season. The main difference, though, is that Jalen Brunson produced that for a playoff team and then also produced like that in the playoffs, while Anthony Simons benefited from Dame going down and Portland effectively tanking. That's the only way. That's the only differing factor between those two guys. But in negotiations, I don't think that that's valid because Anthony Simons can and his agent can be like, okay, well, he could have not produced. Okay, producing, like, it's not his fault that he landed in that situation. And it's true, he could have very well sucked, but he didn't suck because there is something there. There is potential there. Anthony Simons might not be the next Damian Lillard, but if he's somewhere in between Dame and CJ, I think it's fine to take a little bit of a risk on him. And again, you're talking about a guy who is homegrown. Like, why would you why would you let him walk, especially when he's displayed, you know, some competency as an NBA player? What else? What else? Who signed? Lou Dort signed for a lot of money as well. 5 years, 87 million. Don't really have much to say about that. Yusuf Nurkic re-signed as well. Bobby Portis got paid. Marvin Bagley re-signed with Detroit. PJ Tucker went to Philadelphia. 11 million a year for 3 years. And PJ, who is a little bit older and, you know, is probably towards the end of his career, he was huge for Miami this past year, and he is a guy who just contributes to winning in his weird ways. All he does is shoot corner three, play defense, and swing his elbows. That's all PJ Tucker knows. All PJ Tucker knows is eat hot chip, make corner three, and fight. That's it. That's all he knows. But when you're effective at that, when you're an effective 3-and-D guy, you become the most valuable free agent because every team needs one. So I'm not surprised that the Sixers scooped him up, especially if they're going to try to run it back with James Harden, who opted out of his deal, I believe, and is still on the he's meeting this weekend with the Sixers. They're going to renegotiate his contract. So I don't know if he will take less than the $47 million, give the Sixers a little bit of a discount. But we'll see. Gary Payton II went to Portland. Love that pickup. GP2, hell of a defender. And I think, you know, at this point with Portland, I don't think Portland's had a good defense since like 1997. You know, something that they need desperately. Kevon Looney re-signed with Golden State. No real surprise there. JaVale McGee goes to Dallas, and now Dallas has a legitimate center, which, again, absolutely huge for them. They will still have to reconcile with losing Jalen Brunson, but so it goes. So it goes. I mean, they replaced one of their problems, so they still have net one problems. But I think JaVale McGee will work out quite well. What did he sign for? $6 million a year for 3 years. Like, it's a steal. It's a steal. Who else? I feel like I'm like forgetting a lot of people. Javon Carter re-signed with Milwaukee. Wesley Matthews re-signed with Milwaukee. DeAndre Jordan got another contract. I don't know how the fuck he did that. Guy just keeps getting the bag, but, you know, more power to him. Juan Toscano Anderson joined the Lakers. Malik Monk joined the Kings. Okay, I did not misread that. That is actually a thing. Okay. I mean, I think his train of thought is like, if I'm going to be on a team that stinks, which the Lakers were, and they probably will next year, I might as well have a more prominent role. I think that's how he's looking at it, which I can't say that I can't say I necessarily blame him for that. And there are still a lot of free agents left. Oh my god. Um. Uh, Wait, Otto Porter Jr. went to Toronto. I don't recall that at all. That's crazy. Wait, what the fuck? No way, right? Oh, look at that. He did actually. That's crazy. I didn't know. Probably because Chris Haynes reported it, and I don't have notifications on for uh for Chris Haynes. But yeah, look at that. He's going to Toronto on a 2-year deal with a player option. That's fascinating. I don't know. I don't really know how to feel. I don't really know how to feel about that. I do know, however, that I am even more fucking frightened. Um, I am fucking frightened of the Boston Celtics because they went out and got even better, which is not something that I could say I was expecting. They went and hold on, my bad. They went and traded for Malcolm Brogdon. Yes, Malcolm Brogdon, the the point guard formerly of the Indiana Pacers, but not just the point guard for the Indiana Pacers. One of the better point guards in the league, not one of the best by any means, but a guy who, especially since, being let loose in Indiana, proved that, he is actually like talented. I'm not saying that he's not talented, but there's just this stigma about guys who come out of Virginia that they don't become superstar NBA players, which I think has a little bit of credence because, Brogdon really didn't set the league on fire when he came in, and he never really emerged until a couple years ago, until leaving Milwaukee. And a lot of that is people think that, Virginia, they keep a lot of guys later, 3, 4 year players, so they come into the NBA and they're older and, you know, they're used to being role players because they're not uberly talented because all the uber talented players are going to Kentucky and they're going to Kentucky, they're going to fucking Duke, North Carolina, what have you. Since then, Malcolm Brogdon has come in, proved he can shoot the lights out, can get to the rack, can pass, is a hell of a floor general. Excuse me while I sneeze. Holy shit, pardon me. And, his talents are just not, they're not being utilized properly in Indiana because oh my god that sneeze fucked me up because Indiana is not they're not playing for anything right now. So the full package is where is it, dude? Come on. Malcolm Brogdon to Boston for Daniel Tice, Aaron Nesmith, and a first round pick next year. That's a great haul, man. I can't even hate. I can't hate. Boston took their biggest weakness, which was not having a legitimate point guard. And I love Marcus Smart, but everyone knows that he's not a true point guard. He plays that role because he can, but it's not his best. It's not his best. It's not really in his skill set. Like he doesn't have the point guard instincts that someone like Malcolm Brogdon does. And I think that it's a huge upgrade for them and also for Marcus Smart in particular because anytime you can have Marcus Smart not worry about producing on offense, even though he will still be involved in Boston's offense, do not get it twisted. Anytime you can, let him kind of just hang out on offense means that he will be a better defender for you, which again, that is his best feature is being a defensive stopper. So shout out to the Boston Celtics. Um and I think we're at just about an hour here. I think that this is really all that I have to talk about. Um I think I already mentioned it, but a bunch of guys who were eligible for max extensions signed them. Um, Zach LaVine, Bradley Beal weirdly signed his extension to stay with the Wizards. Why? I don't know. Dude, where the fuck? Here we go. Why he wants to remain with the Wizards, I don't know. Um, Ricky Rubio re-signed with Cleveland. Nick Batum re-signed with the Clippers, who are having an absolutely fantastic offseason. Mo Bamba re-signed with Orlando, although I don't really know how consequential that's going to prove to be. Tyus Jones re-signed with Memphis. Great get for them, of course, as we know, solid backup. Yeah, Bradley Beal. I think I saw Tim Legler not like talking shit about Bradley Beal, but just kind of being perplexed as to why he would do this. And I tend to agree. Bradley Beal is chasing the bag. Okay, I cannot say I blame him either. You think that I would turn down 250 million fucking dollars? Hell no. Fuck no. Why would I turn down 250 million dollars? Okay, I think that, you know, clearly Bradley Beal is someone who doesn't care what folks are going to say about his legacy, and I wonder if it's because like he's never really had the same championship expectations as some of the other guards in his class. Uh I don't know, man. I don't know. Someone tweeted at Shannon Sharp and they said he wasn't washed when he helped Bradley Beal have his best season ever the year before. He just can't play like that next to Braun. Braun needs the. Oh, they're talking about Russ and the Lakers. Expectations are different in Washington than LA. Yeah, that's true. Another thing, Bradley Beal doesn't have these insane expectations because he plays in fucking Washington D.C. No one in Washington D.C. gives a fuck about anything that doesn't have to do with the White House. Okay, that's it. If you're not Joe Biden, if you're not Joel Brandon, no one gives a fuck about you over there. So Bradley Beal is effectively getting $250 million to hang out in silence, which is awesome. And people are gonna hyperanalyze this decision. I think one of the funniest takes was like Bradley Beal's taking $250 million just so he could stay in Washington and have his wife subtweet his teammates. I think that's the best case scenario. Someone said, "Stop saying free Bradley Beal. We are witnessing an all-time bag chaser in his prime." Bradley Beal is actually NBA young boy. He is NBA never broke again. This guy, what are his career earnings? I gotta check this because he's gotta be fucking caked up. He's gotta be fucking so far in his career. So far in his career, Bradley Beal has made $145 million. Add 70 more million to that, so he's at 210, give or take. This guy will have $500 million in career earnings by the time this next contract is done. And by the time this next contract is done, he will be 34, which feasibly means that if he continues to produce at this level, he could get another $100 million. And I say this is possible because with the way that NBA finances work, every year the salary cap gets higher and higher, therefore meaning that $30 million this year is not the same as $30 million next year. It's kind of like the time value of money principle, where money today is more valuable than money tomorrow, and like also with inflation and all that shit. But like Bradley Beal, I would not be shocked if Bradley Beal retires as like the NBA's all-time career earner, like, which would be really fucking crazy to think, because you look at that and you think of guys like LeBron and you think of guys like Kobe, and no one's thinking about fucking Bradley Beal. But like he is literally the personification of I get the bread, I get the head, and I leave. So I can't hate him for that. And I don't think anybody can either. I think that might actually do it. I don't believe that anything else. I don't think that I can't recall anything else happening. I think the most unfortunate part about this is that I was live for about an hour and we got no new updates on Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, which sucks. I was kind of hoping to be able to react to something on on air, which is cool, but yeah, nothing's really been oh, we just got a notification. New Shams tweet. New tweet from Shams. Come on, bro. Show me. Come on, Twitter. Fucking show me. Oh. Dante DiVincenzo going to the fucking Warriors, man. Of course he is. Of course he is. They just keep getting better. They just keep fucking getting better. That's great. Shout out to them. I'm trying to find some more content before I fucking bounce. Uh, maybe there is. Oh, another thing I didn't touch on, like Boston holding on to Grant Williams, Jake Fisher. I saw this tweet from Jake Fisher and it jogged my memory. Boston being able to hold on to Grant Williams, Derek White, like those two guys off the bench, huge. I know they didn't play that well in the finals for Boston, but they were a huge reason why Boston got to the finals in the first place. So the fact that they hang on to them, very cool. Very cool and very, very nice indeed. Oh, Zion signed an extension as well. Not surprising, even though, he's out of shape or whatever he is. You give him that money, he's like he was 21 years old, averaging 25 without having a go-to move in his bag. So Josh signed a deal as well. Again, not surprising. A lot of these guys signing deals is just it's not duh. Like what do you expect from them? Towns signed an extension as well. Um, Drummond to Chicago. Kyle Anderson. Oh, that's who it was. Kyle Anderson signed with Minnesota. That's a good deal. Kyle Anderson is a great player. Great player in his own right, and great player in the role that he occupies. Even though like his game is very wacky. Like I think he'll be a good. I think he'll be a good fit for Minnesota, despite everything I had already said about them previously. Uh, I didn't talk about it, but Nick Claxton comes back to Brooklyn. Unfortunately, I don't really care much for these moves that Brooklyn is making because I'm just so preoccupied with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving that I love Clax. I love Clax a lot, but KD and Kai are going to monopolize the new cycle. Lonnie Walker signed with the Lakers. Patty Mills returned to Brooklyn as well. Once again, love Patty. He opted out just to opt in or just to sign for a second year, which I guess um trying to oh, Joe Ingles signed with the Bucks as well. Look at these teams going out and fucking doing shit. I wish I could relate, but ultimately I fucking can't because my team is busy wrestling with what they're gonna do with arguably the two greatest players that they've ever had suit up for them in their NBA time. I one of the weirdest things is people get so fucking weird when you talk about Julius Erving being a net because it was like the ABA. It doesn't matter for some reason if people played in the ABA before joining the NBA. Very weird. Although I don't give a fuck about that. I still think that Julius Erving is the greatest player that has ever suited up for the Nets because he is. He is. I don't think anyone is gonna fight that. Victor Oladipo returned to the whatever. Who the fuck? Who does he play for? Miami. Okay. I think I've covered everything. New Woj tweet. Uh, the Woj tweet was the same thing Shams tweeted. It was literally The same thing that Shams tweeted, and he was 2 minutes late. Woj is washed, bro. Washed. He's getting beat. Shams was first. Shams was first, and then this shit spawned with likes. Woj is cooked, bro. That's crazy. R.I.P. Woj getting dusted by Shams, getting dusted by Brian Windhorst, and yeah, bro, that's crazy to me. I didn't think that of all the things that would happen, one of them would be Woj being washed. I think with all of this said, I think I've covered it. I think I've covered free agency about as effectively as I could. Again, I'm very upset that Woj says the Gobert deal has emboldened the Nets to ask for a never-before-seen haul. They have every right. They have every right to do that too. Rudy Gobert, bro. Rudy Gobert got this. Okay? Rudy Gobert got 4 picks. 4 picks. Of course the Nets are going to try to ask for a never before seen trade. Oh, hold on. We got a perk.
Welcome back to the NBA Today Free Agency Special. So we began our show talking about the blockbuster Rudy Gobert trade. And when you're looking at that many picks, that's what Rudy Gobert commanded. The natural next question, Zach, is what the heck is Kevin Durant going to take to get him moved? We know that Brooklyn isn't necessarily in a rush here. They want to see the best packages. They have a little bit of leverage in that way. Fictional guys, perk. What is the trade package that you think that you would like to see or that you think Kevin Durant could command?
Well, real quick, right? I mean, they had to throw in a lot of picks because they didn't throw in an all-star caliber player. So I think you have to throw in a lot of picks for the Utah Jazz situation. But if I'm like the Atlanta Hawks and you just got Murray, I'm giving up Hunter and Collins and figuring out some other pieces, maybe picks that the Hawks may have for Kevin Durant.
They don't have any more picks. They gave all of them to the Spurs. And John Collins and DeAndre Hunter, it's not a satisfactory get for Kevin Durant. It's simply not. That's not a deal that Brooklyn would entertain unless it's like you're trading Trae Young, John Collins, and DeAndre Hunter as well.
I'm moving Collins and Hunter. Hunter is becoming one of the better two-way players in the game today. He could possibly be a future all-star in the near future. Collins, we know what he could bring to the table. He showed us that he's capable of averaging 19 and 8 a night. He just don't fit well alongside Trae Young. But if I'm the Hawks, why not? Why not? Kevin Durant, Murray, Trae Young. Sounds good to me.
What sounds good to you, Zach?
So I thought about this more from the Nets' perspective than from the other team's perspective. And to me, I said this yesterday, I said this before Kevin Durant got traded. My first call is to the Toronto Raptors, and I'm asking for Scotty Barnes as the centerpiece of a Kevin Durant trade. And Scotty Barnes is Rookie of the Year, could be a future, I don't know, but there's no ceiling on Scotty Barnes. Could be a future 8-time All-Star or something like that. That's worth, I don't know how many draft picks that's worth, 3-4 draft picks. So I'm going Scotty Barnes, Gary Trent Jr., need a little salary cap filler, and then maybe we'll go 2 picks and 3 swaps, 3 swaps and 2 picks, and I can hear Toronto people saying we're not giving up Scotty Barnes, that's too much.
Yeah.
And guess what?
Yeah, they say that they didn't want to give up DeMar DeRozan, and they got Kawhi Leonard.
Then you don't get Kevin Durant. The sticking point for me becomes if the Nets have so much leverage and so much interest in Kevin Durant that in addition to Scotty Barnes and Gary Trent, I've got to throw in an Anunoby or something like that, and at that point, Kevin Durant's coming to a team that has now been not crippled, but sort of devastated by the bounty going out. Does he have enough there to win? So I think
Fellow Zach Lowe, one of the most well-respected and most well-liked sports people covering the NBA, is running into the same thing that I mentioned, and that it's when you're trying to trade for Kevin Durant, you will cripple your team. He said it best. You will most likely wind up crippling your team because it is such an unknown package, right? And I don't think that this trade is bad. Scotty Barnes, he said Gary Trent Jr., Anunoby. I'm 100% asking for OG Anunoby if I'm the Nets. Maybe at that point, as he also mentioned, you add Anunoby, and then instead of asking for 4 picks, you ask for 3, which I think that's fair. Scotty Barnes, there's really nothing I can say about him that Zach already said, but that's from the point of view of Brooklyn totally rebuilding, which that's another thing that they're going to have to consider when they're looking for these trades is, do we want a package that allows us to remain competitive, or are we ready to just, pack it up? We tried, we went out on a limb, it didn't work, let's scrap it and start over. That is a critical decision that the Nets front office is going to have to reckon with, and I'm very interested to see how it plays out. I think that this package is better than the one that Kendrick Perkins brought up, but you have 28 other teams or 27 other teams that you have to hear from.
Trent Barnes picks is the sweet spot where he can go to Toronto and look around and say, we can win the championship with this roster. And if you can win the championship, you got to at least have a meeting about it, no matter how much you love Scotty Barnes.
What say you?
I like that a lot. I do. I love Scotty Barnes. I'm not exactly sure what his ceiling ultimately will be offensively. I think he could be an all-league defender. And offensively, maybe he gets in that 18, 20-point range. I want more offensively. So I'm looking at New Orleans. Said it yesterday. I thought about this last night. Believe it or not, guys.
I think I'm going to like this one.
At the hotel.
Did you really?
Yeah.
You
They asked me that question.
I didn't just clock out.
They asked me that question. They go, you had 24 hours to think about it. And I'm like, I didn't know there was going to be a quiz.
You were
I
at
didn't
the
clock
anime.
out.
You were at the anime.
Yeah, I was at the
All right,
anime.
so
Weird stuff.
And here's what I thought. The more I thought about this, you got to get me a 24-year-old dude that can average 23 to 25 points a game to anchor my offense around
Brandon Ingram,
for who knows how far out into the future. He has emerged. He's an all-star. He's a guy that ultimately has all-league capable offensive ability. In addition, you probably throw in a Larry Nance Jr., and then we start talking picks. How many picks? I don't know. 2, 3, 4, maybe every pick going forward for the rest of that organization's future. I don't know how many.
Essentially,
Put
yeah.
the number on. If Gobert got 4, then let's say 3 or 4.
They got a lot of extra ones from the Lakers.
Every pick.
3 or 4 picks, but Brandon Ingram is the guy in my crosshairs if I'm Sean Marks. I want Brandon Ingram, and then figure out what other young player and picks.
All right, so then we have to bring in the adults in the room and say, okay, so what of this is actually possible?
This is the best trade. Tim Legler just gave us the best trade. Brandon Ingram. I think I saw on ESPN before I left work was the trade was Brandon Ingram, Larry Nance, and Herb Jones, plus picks. That is probably the best trade that you can ask for, because Brandon Ingram and Ben Simmons as your centerpiece, which is what it's looking like. I think that Brandon Ingram has the potential to be the best scorer in the NBA in the next couple of years. Not just like a guy who leads the league in scoring, but is a legitimate 3-level scorer who can get to the line and is just a handful for guys to deal with. I mean, if you just look at his numbers, now, he's closer and closer to that than, well, I can't really say than people expected, because he was coming out of college. People were comparing him to Kevin Durant, which is, of course that's the most apt comparison. He's fucking 6'11", weighs 110 pounds, 7-foot wingspan, but 23 points this past year, 6 boards, 5.5 assists. I think that if he is given full-time priority, this is like a 25 to 27 point per game guy. And as he gets older, remember, he's only 24, okay? As he gets older, he will become a more intelligent scorer. I think that's the best way to describe it. He will learn to pick his spots better. He will discover what his go-to moves are. He will discover where he can play depending on what type of defender is guarding him. He will become more comfortable with playing with his back to the basket. He'll become more comfortable shooting from the perimeter. He'll still be able to seek out contact and get to the free throw line. I think that best case scenario, Brandon Ingram is like and I can't really say this because I haven't like thought about it, but Brandon Ingram is probably the guy. If you're not able to get a legitimate star, or like a superstar, then you've got to look at Brandon Ingram. And let's go ahead and finish this up real quick.
Front office insider Bobby Marks. Yeah, Richard, just stop.
Oh, yeah, this is what I saw.
Some of Bobby's work. Where is Richard's? Well, what I was going to do is I was going to critique everybody's. I was going to critique everybody's like package.
That's what Bobby gets to do.
Yeah.
So
thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube.
Oh my God, RIP headphone users. And I didn't even talk about Larry Nance and Herb Jones, who are two excellent defenders in their own right. Like, at this stage of all the packages I've seen, that one stands to be the best. And I don't think that anyone is going to refute that. But again, that's just like from things that we've seen. Folks, I think that's going to do it. There hasn't been a new update from anybody quite yet. So with that, thank you guys so much for coming to hang out with me today. It was excellent. Wait, hold on. What? My friend just texted me. He's like, watching KD talk about where he wants to go is comical. I'm going to be like, can you link me? What is he talking about? Watching Kevin Durant talk about where he wants to go? I have a strange feeling I already covered this, and it was when he was like, "Oh, I want to go to a championship. I want to go to a championship, obviously. I want to go to Man, fuck it. I'm not even going to wait for my friend to text me back. I think I've exhausted this conversation. As always, thank you guys so much for coming to hang out with me today. It was excellent. Everything I'm associated with is down in some fucking description box. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Follow the channel on Twitch. I go live every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Sometimes I do little things like this just to make it a little bit more fun. But again, this was really only because of the free agency shit going on. But if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, go ahead, leave a rating, leave a review, subscribe, tell a friend about it. If you liked it, tell a friend about it. If you didn't like it, all press is good press. And with that, I will catch y'all in the next one.